Welcome to Lawmen, a podcast about local legends and obscure curiosities from days of yore. I'm James Shakeshaft.
And I'm Alistair Beckett-King.
And this week, it's the return of Cuthbert Shields. This takes place in Queen's College in Oxford.
Fans of remembering things
will
remember this.
From the Christmas episode. They serve a boar's head at Christmas to commemorate a student who killed a boar with a book, and the boar did a joke as it died.
Didn't happen though, did it?
What, a boar didn't say a joke in Greek? Just live a little. Open your mind. Yes, right then.
Okay.
This is one from the University City of Oxford.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
It's very much the Cambridge of Oxfordshire.
It is, very much so. It's like Cambridge, but with a sort of a crappy looking 60s bit added onto it. I'm a fan of Oxford, but some of the architecture there, like, you've got some really good stuff and some god-awful stuff.
There's at least one that looks like an alien spaceship landed, and I like that one.
That's
where they've got those sort of
ones.
porthole 60s windows where they're slightly rounded at the edges.
Oh, that's nice. They do have the Carfax Tower.
Oh, yes.
Which, to me, when we moved there in the late 80s, sounded like the most futuristic tower in the world. It's Carfax.
Combining cars and fax machines.
Yeah, exactly.
The two most up-to-date technology.
Yeah.
But is that named after Carfax Abbey from Dracula?
It wasn't named after cars and faxes. I know that much. It's like the oldest building.
That might be a Dracula connection there.
Maybe.
Check that out.
Yeah, I will.
Write in if you know, if you're from Oxford.
Well, hopefully someone from Oxford who will definitely know that will be listening.
Okay.
Because this story comes from the book, came to my attention in the book Haunted Oxford by Rob Walters. I don't know if it's short for Robin or Robert, actually. That's why I corrected myself.
I don't think we'll ever know.
Well, we might do, because I've emailed him.
Oh!
Because this is a really good book, and I really enjoyed it. But he says in his introduction, in essence, he's done lots of things, and he was a ghost tour guide in Oxford for a bit, and he's collected his stories in this book. And he says in the introduction, one of these stories I've made up.
Oh,
yeah.
Rob's got game.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't tell you which one.
Nice.
And I had to email him to check the one that I really liked and wanted to tell on the podcast wasn't the made up one. He assures me it's not. And I even slipped in the email. Oh, I wonder which one was it, by the way? Didn't reply. Didn't reply to that element.
He didn't tell you whether he's a Rob or a Robin.
Me.
Well, he's got to maintain an air of mystique.
And he says in here that he's written the titles of all the things, and it should be obvious to fans of crosswords which one it is.
Ooh.
So I'm going to read the contents and see if you can work it out, because I can't work it out.
Right.
Contents.
Probably not.
Introduction. Hopefully not that, otherwise elaborate double bluff. Innocent Ghosts, The Black Man of Magdalen Bridge, Hang Me Low, Royal Ghosts, Godstow Ghosts, A Blow from Below. So each chapter is a sort of different type of thing, and then there's broken down to the low ones. Overweight and Overpowering Ghosts, The Pembroke Street Shuffler, which is a good name, and Jane's Possession. Is that a band's name?
I don't know. It does sound like a band's name.
Jane's Addiction.
Jane's Addiction, yes.
Mm-hmm. Nameless Monastic Ghost, Last Rites of Magdalen, The Wadham Wanderer. Stone Ghosts, Alice's father returns to Christchurch, Exeter's Lost Statue. Intelligent Ghosts of the Colleges, The Return of Cuthbert Shields, today's tale, and The Twin Ghosts of Trinity, Dutiful Ghosts of the Civil War, The Chivalrous Colonel, The Digger at Jesus. I've read that's about a gardener, not someone who's just like having a pop. Elusive Ghosts of the Pubs and Inns, The Interloper at the Eagle and Child, and Undead at the Royal Blenheim.
That's all of them.
That's all of them.
Can I have a look?
Does any of them
have
jump
you
out?
worked out? Because as a fan of...
Are you a crossword man?
I'm a fan of Inspector Morse, who lives in Oxford and knows about crosswords. So
right.
He's a big fan of cryptic crosswords. So I'm pretty well equipped, James, to solve this, but I haven't solved it yet.
I think he does Morse tours as well.
Well, that would make sense if he's enthusiastic about cryptic crosswords.
And Oxford.
The one that sounds most like a cryptic crossword clue is The Interloper at Eagle and Child.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, Alice's father returns to Christchurch. Returns usually means we're reading something backwards.
Oh, right.
I'm going to take a picture of these and try and solve them later.
Having read them, there is one that I'm like, nah, come on, mate.
Which one do you think isn't?
Well, I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
I don't want to give you any lead. If you can, if what you come up with is the same,
but you might need to know the content of the story in relation to the title.
No, he says you should be able to get it from the title.
Just from the title.
But also, if you read the story, it should be obvious.
Right. Okay.
And one of them is like, surely not. That can't be real. That can't have even been told as though it were real. If anyone listening, we'll put the photo on the page and stuff. And you do your homework.
Yeah, because if we work it out, we can't say what it is on the podcast, can we? That would ruin it. If I did work it out.
If you do work it out, but maybe we'll get Rob on. I did ask if he wanted to come on, but he's out in the country. Don't rob his house. I don't know where he lives.
Oxford. Tell me. He lives in Oxford.
No, I don't think he does.
Oh, double bluff.
Yeah.
What a bluff stuff.
No.
Well, I feel very warmly towards this book, and Rob.
It's a lovely one. There's another thing I wanted to say about that's not quite related to the story. It was about the new town and the new house, and I found something rather alarming.
I think you better tell me now. Now that you've teed it up.
So when we moved in,
you've just moved house.
Yeah, reasonably recently to a countryside house, a house in the countryside,
full of ghosts.
And the cat managed to pick the. We did the thing, you're supposed to keep the cat inside for 2 weeks. The first night, he managed to pick the lock and break out. Like, I opened the door to the little room. It was literally a locked room mystery. But the cat had managed to pick the lock on the lockable cat flap and had gone, disappeared. So I was looking for him. And over our back wall is the grounds of, like, the old big house. And I finally climbed over that. I finally trespassed. Climbed over that with like just the torch on my phone looking around in these like old spooky trees with the evergreen type trees that hang down and the gnarly roots and stuff. And looking around and couldn't see the cat. Looked around at one of the spookier trees that's right behind our shed. And at the bottom of that spooky tree, sticking out the ground, is a rectangular stone sticking out there. And there was no writing on it or anything. But that was like the second day of living in the house as well. So,
sorry, is the story that you saw a rectangular stone?
Well, it looks like a gravestone underneath the tree, like right by our shed.
Well, my first question was going to be, is the shed safe?
I don't know.
That's really worrying.
May have been compromised. And it's also like, if you look at the trees that you can see, like hanging over the back of a house, it's the spookiest tree is the one with the seeming gravestone at the bottom. Terrifying. Cat came back, by the way.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Okay, so this story from Haunted Oxford by Rob Waters. Thank you very much, Rob, Mr. Waters. This one is The Return of Cuthbert Shields, which I've sung to the tune of Return of the Mac. Is The Return of Cuthbert Shields. Now, this takes place in Queen's College Library in Oxford. It's about a man whose name wasn't actually Cuthbert Shields, and he didn't go to Queen's College. Just getting that out there now.
Wow.
So, when he was alive, Cuthbert Shields, or his real name, John Lang, studied in Queen's College Library quite a lot, but he went to like Corpus Christi or something. He died in 1900. I did a bit of Googling around it, and I think his name was James Lang, and I think he died in 1908. Or there was someone else with a very similar vibe to him at that time. Because there's his autobiography, his self-penned autobiography, is like in the Ashmolean or the Bodleian Library or something. It's like a 4-volume thing that attempts to explain why it was his own fault that he ended up in an asylum in Fulham.
This guy sounds interesting.
Yeah, Cuthbert Shields. When he died, he left Queen's College Library some of his books and a sealed tin box that was about the size of a book, and it was sealed with lace and sealing wax, and he specified that it be opened 50 years after his death. He called himself Cuthbert Shields, because he apparently really believed he was the reincarnation of St. Cuthbert.
St. Cuthbert? From Durham?
Yeah, and Shields.
Durham's own St. Cuthbert?
And he gave him the surname Shields because he was from South Shields.
He was from South Shields?
And his favourite saint was St. Cuthbert, so he thought, I'm going to call myself Cuthbert Shields. Very much the old school version of the porn name, I think. Which favourite saint and last half of the town he grew up in.
Is that how you find out what your saint name is?
Yeah, mine would be Kenelm Wickham.
Mine would be...
Teresa?
You grew up in... Mine is...
The last half, because it's like South Shields.
Okay.
Mine was West Wickham, so I'm Kenelm Wickham.
I'm Demas Carville.
That's
Demas
good.
Carville.
Demas Carville.
Yeah.
I think you were in the running to play James Bond. Demas Carville.
Yeah.
That's a baddie. Definitely, that's a good baddie.
You think so? I think like an oil magnate baddie. Still baddie.
Definitely a
baddie. Well,
Demas.
they call me Demas Carville. We don't like your type around here. What type? I'm not going to go into it.
I think that should be obvious.
For the benefit of the listeners, we're both miming having cigars.
I've got a cheroot, yeah.
Oh, you got a cheroot? Okay.
I don't know what a cheroot is, but I'm miming it.
I've got a thin black cigar, which is probably what a cheroot is.
A cigarillo.
Yes, which is a cross between a cigarette and a gorilla.
And an armadillo.
That's slightly better.
What would...
St. Demas is the thief who was crucified next to Christ.
Really?
Yeah. The good thief.
Have you seen the film Bill and Ted?
That's the reason I brought it. That's the reason I like it.
Is that why it's your favourite one?
Not bothered about the Christ story. It's because they go to San Demas High, which is named after St. Demas.
St. Demas rules. We're like Bill and Ted.
Are we?
Not. No. So, in 1950, the box was opened. So it was opened by the librarian, the bursar of the university, and a fellow.
Just a fellow.
In university speak, that means someone important, as opposed to normal speak, that just means unimportant. Professor Russell.
By the dean, a bursar, and a bloke.
And some guy.
Which means something specific in Oxford.
Professor Russell. So they took the tin from the security cupboard in the basement and they took it up to an alcove on the first floor.
Sorry, I like security cupboard because as a pairing of words, it sets you up and then disappoints. Security cupboard.
It had a lock. And they opened this time capsule and inside they found some letters to the Archdeacon of Christchurch.
Who was presumably dead by then.
Well, I think it's a good job role, isn't it? So you just say the Archdeacon of Christchurch.
Oh, I see. So it's to whichever relevant.
50 years later, yeah.
Okay.
And a long document which contained Cuthbert Shields' predictions for the future. And those predictions were said to be rubbish. Very boring and inaccurate. So boring and inaccurate that I can't find anyone reporting what they actually are. They must have just been like he's obviously missed out the wars, the 2 world wars that happened between his death and it opening.
Imagine missing the world wars. We were getting like migration patterns accurate, and no one would even have noticed.
Just high tides.
Yeah, a duck will have hiccups on a Tuesday, but next to Hitler.
Apparently, this letter is kept in a library somewhere, but I don't know how you'd go around getting access to those things. Maybe Rob, help me out.
Yeah, help us out, Rob.
Come on, Rob.
Help us out, Rob.
And so the tin box, they just threw it away, and the 3 men left disheartened. It says in the account, Rob's account.
Yeah.
And as they went down, the librarian and the professor went downstairs. The professor said, "Who was that 4th guy who was with us?"
Genuinely, the hairs on the back of my neck just stood up.
Really?
Yes.
That guy with the white hair who said nothing. And the librarian said, "There was no one here but you, me, and the bursar." I mean, these are probably not their actual voices.
You said that in the voice of Richard Iowetti. There was no one here but you, me, and the bursar.
Let's go ask the bursar if he saw anyone.
Let's ask the bursar.
And they spoke to the bursar. They spoke to the bursar, and he hadn't seen anyone. End of that part of the tale.
Oh.
24 years later, we're in swinging 1974. There are thieves in the library. They're nicking stuff, books, probably pulling pens off chains and whatnot. So the new librarian imposes a new rule. If you bring anyone who isn't from this college, Queen's College, into the library, you've got to sign them in with the librarian. This is me speaking as a librarian now. I've had enough of people taking our stuff. They're ruining our Dewey system. Dewey system.
Dewey system.
Dewey system.
You're still saying Dewey system.
Dewey. The Dewey system. They're ruining... They're stealing the pens, is what I'm getting at. And then one day, the librarian saw a third-year student reading philosophy come in, followed by an old man. And she assumed that it was an elderly relative because people, they show their relatives round. This is where I work. This is where I study. This is where people keep stealing the damn pens. And the librarian waited for the guy to come over, introduce. That's the rules. Guy just sat down. Student just sat down and started getting on, cracked his books out, started getting on with it. And the old man sort of stood behind him. So the librarian was rightly furious. She went over and said, "You're supposed to introduce people to the thing. They've got to be signed in. Mention the pens, right?" And the student was like, "I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't brought anyone in." The librarian looked round. There's no one there. And she says to someone else sat at the table, like, "Did you see this white-haired guy with the long coat? Where's he go?" And they're like, "I don't see anyone." Someone else went, "I think he just went upstairs, mate." So they went upstairs very quickly. And someone else, they're pointing them in the direction of an alcove. And they went to the alcove. There was no one there. And it was the same alcove that they'd opened Cuthbert Shields' time capsule in those 24 years earlier.
Which would be spooky had there not been nothing in it.
But there was no one there. That's where the white-haired old man had gone. There's no other exit.
How do they know he'd gone there, though?
Because a couple of people saw him.
They didn't see him in the alcove. Yeah, they didn't see him in the alcove.
He was going over to that alcove.
Did they say he was going over to the alcove?
Might be putting words in Rob Walters' source's mouth.
Okay. I'm sorry to bring scepticism in there because it was
so late in the day.
It was a really spooky story. I liked it.
It was a good little spook, right?
Yeah, top spook stuff.
That's the end. That was the return of Cuthbert Shields. He watched over his time capsule being opened. And then people think that he's looking for the tin box.
He was so embarrassed by how bad his predictions were, he didn't come back for another 24 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Score time. Category 1 is reminding you about time capsules. It was nice to be reminded of time capsules. Did you ever make a time capsule?
Yeah, time capsules were a massive deal in the 90s. I think the main thing that time capsules will tell people in the future is how interested people of the 90s were in time capsules. That's the main thing.
That's the only period of time.
The medium is the message. Time capsules were considered important.
Yeah, because it was on Blue Peter, wasn't it?
Yeah, inside it's just going to be like a Steps album on a tape. Bands.
What's a band?
You don't remember bands? I don't know if we can say bands. Do
you mean friendship bands?
Yeah, they're like friendship bands, but when they break, you're supposed to have sex with the other person.
Those sort of neon things that look a bit like sort of shoelacy, and they had that very cool, like interesting way of adjusting that involved 2 knots.
I think so. I didn't have one, obviously. Because I wasn't a cool kid.
Didn't have any friends. Friends without any benefits.
Didn't have any friendship bracelets.
Oh, I think I bought my own one, to be honest.
You bought your own friendship bracelet? Yeah. That's worse.
Yeah. When it broke, though, what a weekend. I think I did do a time capsule, but I can't remember. I like to think that there was a loose floorboard in my cupboard and I put something underneath there, like a note to people in the future. But I think I just thought I should do that, and then I forgot to do it.
That's annoying.
Yeah. Did you do what?
I never actually made a time capsule, no.
Did they do it at school? They did it at schools and things because they'd done it on Blue Peter, and no one had anything else to do.
I certainly remember devoting a lot. The time I wasn't thinking about tree houses. A lot of it was spent thinking about time capsules.
Would you be designing those tree houses?
Oh yes, drawing designs and plans for tree houses was my main occupation at that time.
Really? That's a good plan. That's a good occupation.
The thing is, we didn't have a tree in our garden, so
I don't think anyone really had a tree that could have a tree house in it.
No, so I was trying to work out, can you have a tree house without a tree?
A shed.
Yeah, well, I hope it's not near a scary tree.
Yes.
Oh, no. So what's the category?
Reminding you.
The category is reminding
time
me.
Capsules.
It's 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
You have completely reminded me about time capsules, and I haven't thought about them for years.
Consider that to be a sort of a time capsule.
Oh, yeah.
Steps.
Next category.
Yeah. Category number 2. Quite the character.
And who is quite the character in this story?
The man who really believed he was the reincarnation of St. Cuthbert.
Oh, yeah, that guy was a bit of...
Cuthbert Shields.
A bit fruity, Cuthbert Shields. To rename yourself.
He gave himself a pseudonym because he really believed that he was the reincarnation of St. Cuthbert.
Yeah.
And he needed a surname, so he gave the surname of the town that he grew up in.
Yeah, that's quite rubbish.
What a guy.
Here's the thing. I don't think he's that exciting a person. Otherwise, his predictions would be... He's no Nostradamus. He's no the Cheshire Prophet. He's none of the big-name prognosticators that we know of. And I think there's a bit of... I don't know. I feel like the renaming of himself, it's a little bit of sort of self-mythologizing, isn't it? He's looking for attention because he's not a good enough prophet.
It's from some of the descriptions, it sounds like he's wearing a leather trench coat.
Oh.
Which is...
That's...
Yeah.
Even if you are like a gravedigger, it's still creepy.
Unless he's he was predicting the Matrix reboot.
All right. I'm going to give you 4 because of the double meaning of the word quite. Because quite the character could mean very much as a character, or sort of, I'm going to go with quite a character. He wasn't that much of a character. And so it's 4 out of 5.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, it's just reasonable, I think.
And, well, category 3, naming.
Naming. Well, good names. Although I feel like you cheated by including our prophet names.
Hey, how can you... But it's like with the...
Demas Carville and... What was yours?
Ken Elm Wickham.
Ken Elm Wickham.
Who does sound like a bit of a thug from nowadays. Sounds like a... Generally, well, there's a footballer called Connor Wickham.
Is there?
And he sounds like
Is he a good sort?
Yeah, he's all right. Oh, no. I'm recording both options there because I didn't look up whether he's...
So we just find out and sort that out in the edit.
Yeah.
Right. Well, good names in the story. You've mentioned the Bodleian and the Ashmolean Library, both of which sound good.
Queen's College, Corpus Christi,
a.k.a. Corpus Christi, as I call it, because we're mates. That's what I call Christ.
A.k.a. Body of Christ. Body of Chris.
Yeah, we didn't... I mean, Oxford's famous for having slightly weird spellings, like Magdalene. Magdalene is pronounced more. We don't say it the way we spell it.
No.
To make people feel stupid for no reason.
Yeah. It really, because I worked at a cinema and there were 2 branches of that cinema. It was the ABC. There was one on George Street, fine. The other one was on Magdalen Street. I thought it was Magdalene when I worked there, and people laughed. Even just the people who worked in the cinema were like, oh, it's Magdalene. Like, well, it's spelled Magdalene.
Yeah. So... I think it's a 3 out of 5.
Cuthbert Shields? A.k.a. John or James Lang? Return of Cuthbert Shields.
That's a good title.
That's a name. Title's a name.
Yeah, Rob's done a good job there. Absolutely no question. It's Cuthbert Shields I'm not impressed with. Cuthbert Shields is not a cool name.
I know. That's what I like about him as well.
Imagine the adventures of Cuthbert Shields.
He's invented his own name and he's gone with Cuthbert Shields.
It's so sort of piece of tape around the middle of the glasses.
He does sound like he's got a Mac on. That was the return of Cuthbert Shields. Chilling, right?
Extremely.
Chilling. And
extremely chilling.
In an old way that meant scary.
Yeah, not just relaxing, no.
I think it means sex.
What? It means sex?
If you want to leave us your Cuthbert Shields name as a comment, please do. That would be really fun.
Remind us, how do you work out your Cuthbert Shields name?
Oh, it's very easy. You just take the name of your favourite saint and hometown.
Please like, subscribe and share your Cuthbert Shields names with us, the Lawmen.
Yes.
Alistair Pickett King.
James Shakeshaft, a.k.a. Teresa Keynes.
Oh, nice. I've decided my saint name is going to be Roger Moore Balamory.
Is Roger Moore a saint?
He's the saint.
Oh, yeah.
It's valid.